go toe-to-toe to the bell. Been floored by the headshot. Refusing to lose. Refusing to give up. Astonishing right hook to the head.
Respect isn't given, it's earned. In blood.
Boxing King Media, we're back again for another episode of The Uncomfortable Truth. It's Sunday morning, literally a few hours after the big fight last night, and we're here because we're powered by Zapply. Otherwise, we'd be falling asleep right now, but we're full of energy and we're ready to talk some boxing. You ready to rock and roll, Johnny?
Rock and roll, baby, rock and roll. Bring it on. I'm like, where are you? I'm ready.
Let's go. First thing, so obviously Fury Makhmudov, that's the show obviously I'm talking about last night, big event. I'll tell you, the first thing I wanted to ask your opinion, I don't know if you saw this, obviously we saw hours before the show kicking off, apparently Eddie Hearn is chucking legal papers at Spencer Brown over Justice Huni's promotional contract, and apparently there's not threats, but something raised with Netflix saying that they could end up in legal trouble if this fight's broadcasted, etc. You've got Frank Warren, who's allegedly suing Turkey, and they all sat ringside next to each other. You couldn't make it up. Are they playing us or what?
I rate Turkey because look at ringside. First of all, I saw Turkey in the dressing room when Frank was in the dressing room. I don't know, I'm not into football, but Turkey had a football shirt. Frank was sat down in the dressing room where TYSON was. And I think Frank's very ballsy because Frank still went there, even though he's trying to sue him. And Turkey had the football shirt and like that in front of Frank. And Frank sat there like a little boy behaving himself and just laughed it off. And I thought, I laughed to myself. I thought, this is business. I don't know, cock waving. Frank's turning up, even though I'm suing you, I can still be here with my fight. You can't do anything about it. I wonder if you do that in Saudi. Do it in London, but I can't see him doing it over there. But then I looked at ringside. You saw AJ, you saw Eddie, you saw Chris Jr., you saw Spencer Brown, you saw Frank Warren, and you saw them all there, the usual suspects. And I'm laughing, thinking, I'd love to put a kind of bubble over everybody's head, as if what they're thinking. I rated Junior, rated him because he had two men on either side of him hating on him, and he sat there on his phone whilst Conor's fighting, just smiling at his phone, laughing, not even looking at the fight. You could see him straight away. It must have been sort of frustratingly uncomfortable for Eddie and Frank. They'll say Eddie ignored him, but the thing that Junior has done and said in regards to them, calling them scumbags, XYZ, I think Frank's pride probably it burns him more than anything. I don't know if do a legal papers flying or what, but I looked at Junior, I just laughed. I thought, good on you, you've set the cat amongst the pigeon. And then Frank sat there and Turkey's there. And when I saw Turkey, he's singing, I'm putting you all in a pot. It's like bringing BOMBSHELL into the mix. He knows Frank and Eddie, if it was their choice, BOMBSHELL wouldn't even get through the front door. But he's...
I forgot to mention Ben. So, in fact, one time they were all there. So BOMBSHELL is suing... who's suing who now? I've lost count.
He's suing.
They're all suing each other. In fact, no, Spencer wanted to slap Ben over this... issue with Martin Bacoli, so they're sat next to each other. Eddie Hearn's suing Spencer Brown over Justice Huni's contract. Frank Warren's suing Turkey over...
So you know what happens now? So now I rate Turkey because he's put them all in a pot and he's watching them all and he'll say, right, I'll let you lot fight over the scraps. And he's chucking like a little kid saying, look at this fight, look at this school fight here. He's loving it. But when those lot there, they've got to sit down and smile and nod and get the job done. I rate Turkey because he put them ringside so everybody could see them, as if to say, you're my bitches, boys. Because in reality, any other way round, how would that work? Nah, I'm not doing that. He put them all together in a cauldron pot, and I thought, Turkey, I rate you. And he's letting them all fight out because you're probably thinking, the stuff you're squabbling over is no sweat to me, but it's a big sweat to you. And so apart from the fight itself, I saw that. Turkey was there, and no disrespect, boys, just like, you're my bitches. That's what he did. And it was just, I just chuckled to myself thinking, my goodness, I wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
There's obviously a lot going on, so a lot to talk about. So I'm going to fly through the undercard. Obviously, there was 4 fights in the main card. Fraser Clarke, Justice Huni. Before the fight, a lot of people are saying Fraser needs to pack it up. He shouldn't be boxing anymore. And obviously, he's gone to Joe Gallagher. I thought he looked brilliant. He lost for a very close decision. But what did you make of his fight?
I think initially, because I know was getting paid handsomely for that fight, handsomely. Initially, I thought, is he cashing out? Or is this man where is he at in his head in his career, because he'd been in a couple of fights. I said I'm worried about Fraser boxing again. Fraser took some solid shots on the chin, even though you don't want that to happen. Fraser looked physically so much better, his pace was so much better, and I love Fraser to death. But I think that's his level. He's not going to get any higher. You've got some fighters that are really good sparring partners, and they can't stop from being in sparring partner mentality. And so they're happy to come second in an exchange. They're happy to just be a follower instead of a leader. And I just sense that impression with Fraser in the last few fights I've seen him at. He's not being able to step up the level. And I think Joe's done an amazing job with him. And Joe in the corner said, look, I think I've got you two rounds down. Don't leave it behind because you'll regret it. Your career's on the line here. So Joe understands that. I just think Fraser has reached his ceiling. Looking at the age he's at, looking at the experience he's had to pick up through the losses and the draws and the wins. I just think we've seen the level he's at. Just Huni had a good pace on him. Fraser showed amazing conditioning physically, and he just didn't have that extra gear that you need to be at world level. So what's your intention? Do you want to dominate domestically on a European level or on a world level? I just don't see that in Fraser. And yeah, you're talking about him retiring, and I said that after he got stopped against Wardley, because I'd never seen such a bad knockout. But then this is his call. He wasn't getting battered, but he was getting hit a lot, and it was as though he was like there was no other gears. And so that means if you're going against anybody else that's got gears and more, it's only one way. There's only going to be one answer. And remember, after that, you had Jamie TKV, who beat Fraser, and against Richard Riatpour. Richard Riatpour, to me, looked like two completely different people, because when he was a cruiserweight, he just couldn't let that hand go. He had the power, but there was no trigger there. And I said to him afterwards, I said, you know what? It's the best I've seen you. You let that right hand go, like with intention. You let the right hand go without being predictable with it. And he kept throwing it and throwing it and throwing it. And then eventually caught TKV. From round one, it was like he was bullying. He was always the heavyweight, and he was always the one that's been at that position. Whereas TKV, he was like getting bullied and beaten up. And it was a well-deserved win for the British title for Richard Riatpour. But then you've got to think to yourself, so Richard Riatpour beat the man that beat Fraser, and he beat him up. Fraser had a tough fight with him. And when I saw Fraser box TKV, I'm like, you're dipping down to his level. You're getting involved in a war what you shouldn't be getting involved with. You've got height, you've got reach, you've got a good jab. But I just think he's at a level that he's got no more gears to go. And so you then think, how would he go on with Fraser? How would he go on with Richard Riatpour? Richard, I think, is just giving himself a new lease of life, stepping up to heavyweight.
Let me put this argument point to you, because I was just looking at the stats. So when Justice Huni fought Fabio Wardley, Wardley's one of the top heavyweights right now. Justice won pretty much every round in that fight up until that split second where he took a right hand and got took out. Fraser Clarke, on one judge's card, it was 5-5, and then the other two judges both had it 6-4. There was basically one round separating them. So how can it be, as you're saying, down in the levels when he's basically winning rounds against a very, very good amateur boxer, and there was one round between them?
I understand that, but then you'd look how Fraser did with Fabio. Drew the first time, got knocked out, destroyed the second time. So styles make fights. It's about Fraser clearly has the experience of all his boxing experience around the world. He has that. He just doesn't have world class gears. So I'm not, and that's what I'm saying. You need world class gears. You can't go in into world class and have gears of a British level or a European level. You need world class gears to be able to jump it up, push it down. So even though Huni did what he did with Fabio, and I think how Fraser, because Fraser conditioned himself, but Fraser's learned from the past mistakes, so he held his own, he stuck it out, but he just didn't have world class gears to think, right, there's a point for you doing this. It's not about a money grab. It's if you're in this sport, you want to get to the top. And I just thought, Fraser, a couple of times this has happened now, I've just seen no gears. And I think Joe Gallagher's advice to him in the corner was spot on. He pleaded with him. He explained to him, you've done this, you've done that, you're behind, you need to this. And he didn't have the gears.
Good stuff. Well, we'll move on. But I actually thought you looked quite good. I know you did.
I thought you looked good. I just don't think he's got world-class gears. So I think it's the best I've seen him. The pace was high, physically was on point, he was durable, took shots to the body, took shots to the head. I'm like, all right, then I'm not worried now.
You hurt him a few times as well.
Yeah, he did. I just don't think he's got world-class gears.
You've touched on Reactpo and TKV, so I'll move on to Conor Benn. Co-main event. I tell you, the first thing I found interesting, and I did tweet about it as well. I think everyone in the venue, and we saw the build-up, people were expecting him to get booed. I think Eddie Hearn predicted he'd get booed. I'll be honest, he got cheered into that venue. Could you hear any boos on the TV?
No, I didn't.
There was 100% no boos when he came out.
With you, look, and I was looking at Eddie's face when Conor got in, and he was like a jilted girlfriend, sat there ringside, and Conor got in, and Conor has not come back at Eddie with any insults. You know, he's come back with his version of events, but he's not come back with any insults. He's not come back with any threats. Neither his dad, when you did interview his dad didn't either. His dad just like pointed some facts out. Well, why did nobody say that when he left Sky and went to TYSON? Why did nobody say that when he took BOMBSHELL on? His business. So first emotionally, it's that knee-jerk reaction from the public. So emotionally, people are like, you know what, Conor, you're out of order, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, once the dust has settled, people are looking at Conor thinking, you know what, I'd have probably done it myself. I'd have just done it a different way. Now, what, God forbid, what if Conor lost last night? Then everybody's saying, brilliant move, Conor. You've just done a $15 million cash grab, because they offered it you. Great move. So, and Conor's saying this is a one-fight deal. So that's for that one fight. So now he's in a position where he might box Ryan Garcia. That's a different question, but it's more money. He's put himself to a level of earning money to take care of himself, his kids, and their kids. So Conor didn't get booed, and if you keep saying everybody's hating on him and hating or whatever, not upset with him, you get people to join in the noise, and Conor didn't. I think Conor, the smartest thing he did was not respond with insults. He just told his version of the story, his version of events. And that was the smartest thing he did. And that's why, part of the reason why I don't think he got booed. I think Eddie, again, I love Eddie, but he looked like a jilted girlfriend sat ringside.
I tell you what, you're talking about money grab. He didn't do much media during the week. He did the bare minimum. He rocked up for a 10-rounder against a guy that I think, looking at the fight, and I could clearly tell he had some injury issues, because he did not look the same Regis Prograis we've seen. There might be an issue with his legs, I don't know, because he was kind of struggling. And there was 100% a replacement there during fight week as well. I actually bumped into the replacement. He was under strict instructions not to say anything, but I know him from a previous show I was at, and he's around the same sort of weight. So I said to him, what are you doing here? And his face just dropped. I'm like, okay, I know why you're here. And then he told me, he goes, just can't repeat it. So there was a replacement there ready to step in. Good fighter. Not a big name, but a good fighter. So he would definitely give him a better fight than Regis Prograis, but he wouldn't have got any credit for beating him. And then he's been paid $15 million to fight a 10-rounder against somebody carrying an injury. That is probably one of the best business deals ever. Have you ever seen anyone do anything better?
A great business deal. And I think the public, when they talk about it, you can all bitch and you can all say Con X, Y, Z, but he actually has done something everybody would have done, but might have done it differently. And once the dust has settled, you think, I get it. When Nigel's saying, well, hold on a minute, let's make a few comparisons, people are like, oh yeah, I get it. You know, it's human emotion, and I just think what Conor's done, and trust me, they will work together again. Conor and Eddie will work together again. Conor keeps saying that. The relationship might not be the same, but they will somehow spin it where they're working together again. That is the jungle of boxing.
Tell me about this bit then. Obviously, that's the pluses for Conor. A lot of negatives about his performance. People are saying that he couldn't take out a guy that was obviously past it, old, etc. That he should have stopped him. I think I saw Paulie Malignaggi say that, you know, Regis was a sitting duck. So what do you make of the fact that he didn't stop him, and also the fact that if he does come up against Ryan Garcia, Lewis Crocker, all these kind of guys, based on what you saw last night, can he beat these guys?
Listen, I think Conor Benn is nowhere near the finished article, and every fight is improving. I've said it years. This boy is constantly improving, getting better and getting better. You look at the first and the second Eubank fight, improved. He's not at this level. I think he'd struggle, but you've got to go through experiences to get wisdom. I think he against Ryan Garcia. Now, I'd probably favour Garcia, but I do think that Conor learnt a hell of a lot from that performance. So yeah, but you've got to let a man grow. You've got to let a man develop, and that's what he's doing. And I thought he came out very erratically in the fight, and a pace. I'm thinking, can you keep this pace up? When he got a bit more flat-footed, he was a lot more exchanges from Prograis. He was catching him a lot more. So he went out. I thought, if you do that with somebody else that's got a bit more life about them, you're going to be found wanting. So I'm quite sure he'll go back and look at the tape and think, right, I did that wrong, I did this wrong. He's still learning. He's still learning. But the thing is, his last 3 fights have been at Tottenham Stadium in front of 60,000 people. So he's going to get 60,000 people having an opinion, saying you're X, Y, Z, you're not world class. I'm like, all right, you can say that now. I've got a shout about it now. So by the time it comes across in a year's time, I will be world class.
We'll move on to the main event. First question I've got for you is, in fact, it's not a question. There was a lot of talk about this event not selling out. I'll be honest, it looked probably 90% full.
Yeah, but then I heard, I've gotten a taxi, the driver said they gave like 100 tickets away to taxi drivers. I hear 20,000 tickets were given away to clubs and community centres. So there's no way they can have that place looking empty. There was a lot of giveaways. I know there was. And in a situation where I had someone on the phone to somebody saying, look, I've got these tickets, you want them, offload them. So you've got to put bums on seats. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about how popular this fight is? I think it tells you that the intrigue with Tyson Fury, where he's at, is still there. But not as much as what they think, because they didn't sell all the tickets. They had to give a lot of freebies away. And so it was probably a bit ambitious. But if you're comfortable, it's Netflix, they've got mad money, so they can afford to do that. But it wasn't a sellout, so it wasn't as popular as what people think. And I actually think the publicity around it this week hasn't been top draw. I just don't think it's been top draw. And maybe, so again, I look at, and tell me if I get this wrong, when they have their press conference, I know Ring Magazine, they'll have their people doing what they're doing. But if you've not got various elements of the press and you guys there to put out your content, that's how you get the imagination of the public. That's how you get people talking about it. That's how you get on the front and back of newspapers. If you don't do that and say the only information you're getting is off our outlet, then you're narrowing eyes on the prize. You're narrowing people seeing it. You're narrowing people saying, oh my God, this is happening. So it's about, if you want to control it, you can control it. But unfortunately, you can't control the response. So you've got to have eyes, you've got to have people to have an opinion, to get out. I know you want to be the first ones to spread the news, so you get the news directly from this source, which is Ring Magazine. But I think it's like a double-edged sword. And so to me, I think all week they should have opened up to everybody to get inside, to see the content, to create their own content, to get out there, to get the imagination of the public. I think it was lost. An opportunity was lost because of that.
Tyson Fury's legs and his chin The chin was definitely tested. He took a couple of big haymakers from Makhmudov. How did you think he took them, and what did you think of his legs doing 12 rounds?
I think the first 3 rounds, Tyson had to blanket, he had to suffocate, he had to try and subdue what Makhmudov was bringing on, because I think Makhmudov has knocked 17% of his opponents out in the first 3 rounds, 13% of his opponents out in the first round. So once you've got past the first quarter, then you can settle down with it into his boxing. And as the fight rolled on and Makhmudov got slower, because he didn't change. He's not as always all of a sudden he stopped throwing his jab. He was the same fight he was at the beginning, right to the end of the fight. He was just a bit more fatigued. So therefore Tyson had time to set his shots up, set the jabs up, try and catch him with the uppercut. Makhmudov was tough. Tyson had to, remember he's been off for 16 months, so I'm going to give him that grace. So Tyson had to try and find his way around again. Do I think Tyson, that version of Tyson I saw, wins a world title again? No, I don't. I really don't. Do I think that version of title I see fragilities, some vulnerability in it? Yes, I do. And so Tyson's going to make sure he picks wisely who he fights next. Tyson's going to make sure he doesn't take his foot off the gas. He'd been in Thailand for 16 weeks training, and he still had a dad bod. His head, his shoulders there, but he still had a dad bod. And I'm thinking, what you been doing, man? I ain't right. But then he had the fitness there. But I just think, if you've been away all that time training, how could you still got a bit of a dad bod from the chest down? But that must be his DNA. That must be just how he's built.
What about the win? You happy with the scorecards and overall performance of the win? Should he have took Makhmudov out? Because I think there was an argument between Chisora and Spencer Brown at the end of the fight, where I think Spencer said he's only been stopped to the body, and to the chin he's not really shown any weakness.
Well, to me, that fight on Saturday was about what Tyson had left. I always thought he'd beat Makhmudov. I thought if you lose to Makhmudov, he needs to pack in. So Makhmudov's just a tough, big bear. So Tyson definitely had the IQ to deal with Makhmudov. It's a case of how he went about it. So he won on points. He's been out. You've got to give him some grace. He's been out a while. He's come back in. He struggled the first, or had to hold his own for the first 3 rounds, and then started to run away with the fight as the fight went on. So to me, I just think Tyson. I think Tyson, we just did what he had to do. Was I disappointed in the result? No. I expected him to do it. If he'd have got a knockout, good on him. But he didn't do any, because I think this version of Tyson, he only beats probably now 70% of the heavyweights out there. So he's beatable.
So that leads me on to the final part of this. That 70%, is Anthony Joshua in that 70%? But before we even answer that, I want to ask you about the post-fight confrontation. Turkey said there's going to be a big announcement. Nobody knows if anything's signed or if it's going to happen, but it's quite clear Turkey and Fury want it to happen next. And it appears AJ may want an in-between fight. So they're just saying, stop messing about, let's just do it next. What did you make of the that bit, and also the main part where they tried to get AJ into the ring and obviously just stood there, gave him cold eyes and said, I'm your boss, saying, you ain't telling me what to do.
So I saw that. And Turkey kind of preempted it before. There's going to be a big announcement after this. I thought, what's he got planned? And he also said something like, someone wants to kidnap Eddie and get him out of the way so we can get this fight done. So I think he's kind of insinuating it's Eddie's fault this fight's not done and dusted. But then you've got to listen to AJ's interview with Anna Woolhouse afterwards. Listen to what he said. What he says was, 4 months ago, I had something that was life-changing. I'm sorry if it's not word for word, and so I'm real. This is no nonsense. If I'll do this, I'll do it when I'm ready. He said there's more important things in life than this, and so him and nobody's going to put me in that kind of pressure. So AJ knew he was going to be put under some kind of pressure going to that show. 60,000 people there, all the eyes on the world there. He knew something was going to happen. So as a fighter, you've got ego to think, I ain't making no man call me out, make me look soft. AJ stayed in his seat, because at the time I'm like, get up, man, don't let my man talk to you like this. And AJ sat in his seat, and he didn't bite. And when he said that with Anna, I said, he's off out. He's not off in, He's half out. He went there. He likes boxing. He probably went there to say, is this going to make my juices flow? If you can hold your power, hold your peace, hold your place, hold your intentions to say, you're not making me get up. You're making me get in the ring and fight. You're not making me bite and make myself look stupid. If you can do that, then you've got me. Because most of us, because our ego will get the better of us, he didn't. He didn't do that at all. And you know what? I know Eddie wants him to fight. Eddie's his mate. He's putting his arm around him. Oh no, AJ's going to do what he wants to do. I think AJ is more half out than half in. I think he went there to enjoy the night. And when he said that about the upset, when he said that about the upset with what's happened in his life, and I'm for real, there's more important things in life. I thought, he's not made his mind up yet. We could all get getting excited. He went there. He's still famous. He's still a celebrity. He can still enjoy himself. But he's not made his mind up yet, because most people would have been peer pressured into jumping and saying, nah, that's not going on. And I rated him. I rated how he handled it. I rated how he thought, I don't care what the headlines say tomorrow. I don't care what he's got a centre stage shouting me down. I don't care what he says. I'm not having it. Because boxing is that in the grand scheme of things. So as I said, I think he's more half out than half in. He hasn't made his mind up. And I'm quite sure everybody else around him wants him to box. That's including Eddie. They want him to box. But they'll just stand by and say, whatever decision you make, I'll stick by it. It'd favour them if they got the job done. So that said, if AJ did fight, should AJ fight Fury next? I know they're talking about, the talks are Wilder. Why would you get him with Wilder? We've just seen Wilder exposed to say he looks like a fragile old man that was the next champion that had a reputation. It's a lose-lose situation. You saw him and Derek like two drunks in a car park. And they're at the way back end of their career. Wilder is one of the few fighters that still has it, even though he looks shot and gone, he's still got a bit of rep on him. So if you fight him, I'll beat Wilder. AJ, Usyk, and even Fury to fight Wilder, I honestly and truly believe that he's not going to have the same pull he would have done 3 years ago. That's gone. We saw that last week. That opportunity's gone. So if they're thinking that's a soft touch, it's an easy grab, it'll look good on the record. Not really, because you're going to be open to criticism. Because Wilder looks shot to hell. He looks like that trigger's gone. So what you actually achieve, and then if you get turned over by him, you're like, oh my goodness. Now 3 years ago, I'd have said, AJ, don't do it. Now I'd have thought, AJ, don't do it, because this guy, what you're going to get out of beating him. Remember, Usyk said he wanted to fight Wilder before Wilder decided to box Derek. And now Usyk were like, what am I going to gain out of that? And these are the things. I remember I was doing a talk once. I sat with Tommy Hearns, and we were just talking, before he got us up on stage. I said, Tommy, what titles did you have? And he went through all his titles. He said, I was Cruiserweight Champion, WBO Cruiserweight Champion in 2001 to 2005. I said, no, you wasn't. He said, yeah, I was. I said, you wasn't, Trade. I was. He said, no, I was Cruiserweight Champion. I said, me and him back and forth like two little kids. And his agent was sat next to him, and his agent, I said, yo, tell him. He wasn't. Why does he think he was? I was a world champion. Then he went, oh, no, you was IBO champion. And I went, there you go. So Tommy then, his ego got involved. He said, why don't me and you have an exhibition fight? Why don't we do that? I went, all right, if you want. And his agent said, you want to do that? I said, I'll do that. I'll have some of that. So I went back to the gym and told Brendan. And Brendan said, Johnny, he said, why would you fight this version of Tommy Hearns now? He's shot. He's an old man. What are you going to get out of it? What are you going to get out of fighting him now? And God forbid he got lucky somehow. But really, he's an old man. He's shot. He's got nothing left. That's all gone. It looked good on paper. There's no point in fighting him, because he's not the fighter he is. He's not who was. And even the nostalgic view that people have of who he was, it's gone. People know he's shot. And that's the same with Wilder. He's gone. He's shot. So if they're thinking that'll be a great fight, that'll be a sellout, the people went to Tottenham last night to see Tyson Fury out of curiosity. The people went to Tottenham last night to see Conor Benn. That's why they went there. They didn't care about Makhmudov. And they didn't really care about Prograis. That's why they went. So you've got to think, if you're going to sell out a stadium, get somebody there, it's got to be somewhere you think, oh my God, the biggest fight still today is AJ Fury. Out of all of them, AJ Fury, it's the biggest fight still today. And these boys, if they're going to do it, they need to do it now before it's too late.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Hopefully it happens, but I get the feeling from what you're saying, your gut instinct is it probably isn't going to happen.
My gut instinct is, even before the fight, when Turkey said there's a big announcement, I said, unless you see both fighters face to face and say it, they're fighting each other, this fight is not going to happen. No, it will happen. I said it won't. And all the times I decided the fight's happening, when have you ever heard both of them in the same day or the same week say, yeah, we're on, it's sorted? The fight was almost happened, then it didn't happen. I said, so unless he gets in, don't get carried away with it. Bullshit. And so I don't think it's happening, especially hearing what AJ said. I said, you know what, I respect that. You won't being put under pressure by nobody. And the words that came out, I'm like, he's half out, then half in. And he's trying to decide, do I want this? Is it worth it? Don't want it enough? That's what he's trying to do.
Definitely. Well, not definitely, but either way, I think your opinion could be valid there. But thank you for that. Another solid podcast done, and always a good chat. And most people will be wondering, how on earth did we film this? Literally 6 hours after being... We was both in London 6 hours ago. We've had no sleep, and we're straight in, and... It's worth letting people know, and I know you ran out of this, so I had a spare packet in my car. So
can I tell you why I'm running out of it?
Go on.
It's because everybody keeps coming to my house and teething it. Like doorbell goes, I've got to hide my stash because, like, I've got the son-in-law, I've got my mates come and they said, "Does that stuff really work?" And I went, "Yeah, it does." And I have bags. I've got a friend called Tony Benjamin. My man teethed out my bags. They just keep like, so when people come to my door, I'll look on the camera, I'll hide my stash, and then I'll open the door, so you're all right. And then, the conversation's going, you know that Zapply stuff, does it work? I went, yeah, just check it out. And you can see him looking, I've got cameras in my house. So when I go out, I see him looking through the cupboards because they know where I put all my bits. And, but yeah, this is, just try it. I say to people, just try it. Just get one bag, try it for a month. And after a month, if you think, nah, that don't work for me, then jack it.
Well, sleep's big. Like, I feel like you function better with less sleep.
That's why they've got. That's why I take mine in the evening. I take mine like 5 o'clock, because that's when your natural testosterone levels drop anyway. And it's got magnesium. It's got all the natural products in here. That's why I take mine in the evening. I take mine 3 in one shot in the evening. That's it. So it's just a case of it might work for some, it might not work for others, but it's very popular because I'm getting people that are asking me about this that I'm very surprised about. I'm like, just check it out. Have a good look for yourself. This sound works for me. I can't say it works like that for everybody, but it does.
Let's hope you don't need to buy a new mattress or anything like that. Johnny, thank you very much. I'll leave it on that bombshell.
What an atmosphere it is. They go toe-to-toe to the bell. Been floored by the headshot. Refusing to lose. Refusing to give up. Astonishing right hook to the head. I'm the boogeyman.